What's up, guys? Barzine Vasugian with you. It is Saturday morning. Good morning to all of you. It's game day. Chiefs, Texans. We are in the home stretch here. 3 games left in the season for the Kansas City Chiefs. Got 3 interesting games coming up. This Texans team hasn't necessarily been the best, but they certainly have some things equipped, especially within their defense, that can pose as a threat to the Chiefs. What are the Chiefs going to do about it? We shall see. We shall see indeed. Texans offense has kind of been inconsistent this year, whereas the defense, they've been very good. Second most interceptions, second most sacks on the season. They've got 2 pass rushers who are in the top 10 in both sacks and tackles for a loss. So Joe Tooney and Juwan Taylor, they'll have their hands full in this game with Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. So that is a matchup I'm very curious to see. Very curious to see what Kansas City is going to do there. And then they have Tim Settle in the middle of that defensive line there, who is capable of wreaking havoc as well. Okay, I see some of you guys starting to come in here. Great. Let's get started. Let's do this. Chiefs, Texans. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes here, because that's been the one that a lot of people are talking about with his ankle. Patrick Mahomes did say, now this is what he said, take it with a grain of salt, but he did say that the ankle injury he had a couple of years ago in the playoffs is worse than the one he had that he's dealing with right now. He played through the one from a couple of years ago, re-aggravated it in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. That was right before halftime. So the timing of that was actually good, because they were able to, reduce the swelling, kind of just keep it in a position where he could play, tape it up. And he came back, and obviously Super Bowl halftimes are longer than the normal halftime in the NFL. So I'm just thinking about the offensive line here, because during this run the Chiefs have had as they're trying to three-peat, they haven't had any good offensive tackle. Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley were bad a couple of years ago. Juwan Taylor and Donovan Smith were bad last year. And Juwan Taylor, still the same offensive tackle. And then you look at the left side, they've experimented with a lot of guys. They're now moving their all-pro guard to left tackle. Kind of had a rough game last week. Yes, it is Myles Garrett, but you gotta protect Patrick Mahomes. 12 quarterback hits last week from the Cleveland Browns, and that's a team that had 0 sacks. So if you're not getting the sacks, get the next best thing, excuse me. And that's something that the Chiefs usually on defense have done a good job with. I know Chris Jones, his sack production's not there, but he's second in the NFL in total pressures this year. So that's kind of what the Browns did last week. What is your guys' score prediction for this game? I see, Steve, you commented first. You said 24-14. I'm going to go 20-17 in this one. And here's why. Originally, I was going to go with 23-20. Still a fairly close score and not too far from the score that I just shared with you guys. I just think at the end of the day, the Chiefs, they're not a team that puts up a lot of points. And I don't think they're going to be doing it against this team that's 9th in points allowed per game. The one weakness they have, here's the one possibility of me being wrong with the score here from the Chiefs side of things. The Texans, they have the 5th worst red zone defense in the league. The Chiefs offense, their red zone, not very good this year either. So if there was ever a time for the Chiefs to be able to fix the red zone situation, at least temporarily, this is the game where you can maybe turn things around, because the Texans are not very good when it comes to their red zone defense. They're good at so many things. Second in interceptions, second in sacks, 4th in total defense, 6th against the pass, 10th against the run, 9th in points allowed per game. They're tied for the 4th best third down defense in the league. They do a lot of things right. But the one thing that the Texans don't do a very good job of is that red zone defense. That is their Achilles heel. So if the Chiefs can move the football like they usually do, and they get the ball to the red zone, they've got their work cut out for them, because the Texans are not a very good red zone defensive team, even with all that talent they have there. And I think Henry To'o, he's been doing a good job filling in for Azeez Al-Shaair, who's serving that suspension for his hit on Trevor Lawrence. He's done a really good job. He's a really good run stuffer. In fact, last week he had 11 tackles, a forced fumble, and he split a sack. I think he split that sack with Danielle Hunter. So that's a guy who, the Chiefs definitely need to be ready for. Joe Mixon, very good running back. The Chiefs have faced a lot of good running backs this season, but I trust the Chiefs and their defensive unit to be able to shut down Joe Mixon. I don't think what did Chuba Hubbard have against the Chiefs earlier this year? I want to say it was 67 yards against KC. No, 58 yards. Sorry. No running back has rushed for more than 58 yards. I mean, think about that. A running back. And I know running backs, they don't have it's just not as glorified as it once used to be in the NFL. But running backs just cannot run on Kansas City this year. The only person that's ran for 100 yards on Kansas City this year was Lamar Jackson in week 1. And he had 122 yards. Scrambling, obviously. They shut down Derrick Henry. They shut down Chuba Hubbard. They shut down I can't remember the name of the running back for the Chargers who was on IR, but they played him in week 4, shut him down. Alvin Kamara. I mean, the Chiefs have gone up against so many really good running backs this season, and none of them have been able to find success against Kansas City's defense this year. That's why I'd be really intrigued for an Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, because I'd be very curious to see how the Chiefs handle Saquon Barkley. And listen, the Chiefs Lions Super Bowl probably has similar interest for me, because the Lions have 2 really good running backs they use there, and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I don't know what David Montgomery's injury situation is. I don't know if they place him on IR or what the situation is there, but if he is available for the Super Bowl, that would be a very interesting matchup as well for Kansas City's defense. But I'm looking at their receiving core: Nico Collins, Tank Dell, 2 good receivers on the Texans offense there. Tank Dell had a good rookie season last year. He looks like he's going to have similar numbers to last year. Nico Collins, I know he was hurt this year, but before his injury, I think he was leading the NFL in either receptions or receiving yards. I can't remember which one it was, but he was having a really good season up until his injury. So that Kansas City secondary is going to be tested. I think Kansas City sack production can be up there again, because we saw what they did last week. Oh, okay, well, it's the Browns. Well, the Texans are actually worse than the Browns when it comes to quarterback protection, because CJ Stroud has been sacked, 45 times? That is the second most in the NFL this season. The only person who's been sacked more than CJ Stroud is Caleb Williams, the rookie from Chicago. So Kansas City's got to get after CJ Stroud in this game here. Takes a lot of sacks, and Kansas City, their sack production has started to improve a little bit lately. So this would be a really good time. He was sacked 4 times against the Dolphins last week, and he was also sacked 4 times a couple of weeks ago against Tennessee. So CJ Stroud has not really had a lot of protection this season. So both offensive lines have some glaring holes. Both defensive fronts are very good. I would say the Texans are better in terms of the sack production, but both teams can get after the quarterback. So I'm just looking at both sides right there. I think if you're Kansas City, there's another opportunity to get the sack production up like you did last week against the Browns. The one thing I do get a little nervous about with the Chiefs is looking at the Texans defense, those interception numbers. They've got the second most interceptions this year. They've got 19 on the season. The Texans, that is. I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. I know a lot of people love to talk about his stats this year, which is interesting because he had 6 touchdowns and 8 picks in the first 6 games. Funny enough, no one's talking about Patrick Mahomes' interception numbers lately. Everyone loved to talk about it the first 6 weeks, but ever since which game was it? It was the Raiders game. That was the DeAndre Hopkins Chiefs debut. Mahomes threw one pick in that game. After that, he has gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games without a pick. Not consecutively, because in the middle of that, you do have the Buffalo game, and Mahomes did throw 2 picks in that one. One of them was at the end of the game when, it was out of reach and you're just trying to desperately go down the field. But still, threw 2 picks in that game. But in 6 of Mahomes' last 7 games, he has not thrown an interception. So for people that wanted to make a big deal about Mahomes' stats and the number of interceptions he's thrown this year, hasn't thrown much lately. Not at all. In fact, in the last 4 games, Mahomes has not committed a turnover. I don't think the Chiefs, as a unit, like even with the running backs or receivers, I don't think there have been any fumbles lately for Kansas City. So they've done a really good job of taking care of the football lately. And that's going to be very important in this game here because the Texans are very capable of forcing turnovers just as well as any team in the NFL. That defense is very good. With the pass rush, Mahomes has had some bad decision-making in some games this year. The interception 2 or 3 plays into the Buffalo game, terrible decision by Patrick Mahomes. Had that in the San Francisco game, had that in the Cincinnati game earlier this year. So he's got to be better about that. And he has been. He certainly has been. But it's going to be far more important in this one here. Because you win this football game, the magic number is 1 with 2 games left to go. Buffalo essentially needs to win out, and Kansas City has to lose out in order for Buffalo to surpass the Chiefs to get the number 1 seed. The odds of that are very slim. So Kansas City needs to win this football game to get the number 1 seed. And I know this is not an ideal week, but the team that they're going to play on Wednesday, the Steelers, they're also playing today. So you got 2 teams on a short week. In fact, all 4 teams that are playing today, they're all playing on Wednesday. So it's not like the NFL screwed over one specific team. I know all 4 fan bases think their teams are getting screwed over. Everyone's playing within the same time window here. So no one's getting cheated or getting gifted by anybody, contrary to popular belief. Apologies, still under the weather a little bit. Game time decision, guys. But I'm just looking at the Chiefs right now in their standing. Talk about how maybe they haven't looked at their best this season, but right now they only have 1 loss. This would be a big win for them. In fact, I think this is the best defensive team you will face all year. And you got some really good defensive teams coming up in the Steelers and the Broncos, who you're going to face a second time this year. And they certainly gave Kansas City a hard time in that football game. But ever since DeAndre Hopkins has been part of this offense, Patrick Mahomes' turnover numbers have gone down drastically. You got Hollywood Brown coming back. I'm not expecting a big game from Hollywood Brown, but what I would like to see is for Mahomes and Hollywood to establish some sort of a connection on the field, because even though they did that in OTAs and training camp, that's practice, man. What happens in practice and what happens in games are not always going to be the same. So the good part about Hollywood coming back before the playoffs is that you can kind of, if you're Mahomes, you can get a feel for Hollywood, and Hollywood can get an understanding of where he needs to be and where to expect the football that Mahomes is going to throw to him. That way, come playoff time, they're going to have things down. And I think come playoff time, that is when I will start to expect big things from Hollywood Brown. My score prediction for this one is 20-17, excuse me. Let's see here. What did you guys say? Joe says 20-19. Sean says 28-21. Layla says 27-17. 21. Okay, a lot of people going in the mid-20s here. So no one's really predicting a one-sided game. Yeah, this is a really good point. The Texans' offensive line is not very good. That is the one thing that I want to see the Chiefs take advantage of. That's going to be very important in this football game. Can't believe the ref scheduled 3 games in 10 days, right? Yep. In fact, the opposing team also has 3 games in 10 days. Can't believe the refs made that happen also. Yeah, this is the hope every single week. We're always hoping that again, let me ask you guys a question. There's no wrong answer here. If the Chiefs cut Kingsley Suamataia, their second round pick from this year, would you guys be upset about that? Would you guys be okay if Veach said, okay, we're letting this guy go? No right or wrong answer here. I'm just wondering what your guys' opinions are on that. Because we had Kendall Gammon on. He kind of compared him to Eric Fisher and their struggles earlier on in their career, how they're similar they are to each other. Tim Grunhard was also on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about how we shouldn't be giving up on Kingsley Suamataia yet either. So I'm very curious what you guys think about that. Casey can treat these 3 games for Hollywood as a preset. Yeah, it's a fantastic point, John. And hopefully it's 2 games and not 3. Because you can play these 2 games, and as you said, John, kind of get like a preseason feel for Hollywood Brown. Because again, I'm not expecting 100 yards and 3 touchdowns for him. That's a little unreasonable. If he does that, great, awesome. I'm not arguing that, but I think you play these 2 games, and hopefully you win both of them, and you get the number 1 seed. You're going to have a 3-week bye because you're going to have you have the week 17 or 2-week bye rather, I guess. You'll have the week 18 bye, week 18, and then you'll have the wild card round off. And I'm sure Hollywood and Mahomes can spend a lot more time together getting things done. I know the Chiefs posted a highlight of Mahomes throwing the deep ball to Hollywood down the field, and Chiefs fans were going crazy about it. Guys, there was no defense on the field. I I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm not trying to be the Grinch or anything, but I don't go crazy over OTA highlights and training camp and practice highlights. I'm sorry, man. I'm just not that guy. Like, especially when there's no defense. Like, there's nothing too impressive. There's a reason why teams do that. I'm not saying that is a useless throw or a practice right there. You have to do those things first, but maybe I'll get a little excited if there's a defense there. But even then, it's like, okay, it's still practice at the end of the day. A few more scores here. Chris says, want to be upset about it. Would I be okay with Veach not bringing in DJ Humphries? You mean for next year? I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I think DJ Humphries is auditioning for 2025, not just for Kansas City, but for everybody else, because he's been on the shelf all year long. Obviously, he wants to play. He's been a good offensive tackle at one point. Look, when he played that Chargers game, he looked like a guy that had not played all year. When Kareem Hunt played his first game with the Chiefs did not give him the ball 20 times right away because that was his first game back. Kareem Hunt did not go through any OTAs or training camp, preseason, none of that, because he was on the couch recovering from an injury. Obviously, once he got into a rhythm, certainly looked like a better running back. And I know Kareem Hunt's numbers, they're not massively impressive, but he is providing the Chiefs a nice little boost that they desperately needed, especially at the time when they had all those injuries. And a lot of those guys coming back. Hollywood's coming back now. Pacheco's been back for a couple of games. I didn't address this on the podcast yesterday, and I haven't even mentioned this today on the live stream. But would the Chiefs consider going run heavy? I know it's on Andy Reid's MO, and we've been talking about this for several weeks now, why the Chiefs aren't going to run the football. But Andy Reid's run the ball more this year than we've seen it any other season during his time in Kansas City. He's utilized Kareem Hunt a lot more than we expected. He's had like 20 rushes consecutively, I think like 4 or 5 games. Maybe this is the game where you do that just to protect Patrick Mahomes a little more. I don't know. I'm just throwing thoughts out there. So a lot of you guys would not mind See, John, I don't disagree with you, but here's my thing. Look, you guys know me. I can be patient with a guy. I've been very patient with Juwan Taylor. I've been very patient with McCole Hardman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like I've told you guys, let's slow it down a little bit. Maybe the guys don't thrive right away, but let's give it time. The left tackle spot, that's not one you can be patient with, especially when Mahomes has been getting beat to hell all year long. Yes, he's playing today, Christian. The Chiefs going with Kingsley day one started this whole debate. Excuse me. Here's my thing. Like, Wanya Morris was hurt in training camp. And listen, Morris was a third-round pick. Third-round picks, you can still find quality football players there. I just think that... it has not been for lack of effort. They went and traded a first-round pick for Orlando Brown. He didn't do well for his 2 years in Kansas City. They went and got a former champion and a guy who's had some success in the past in Donovan Smith. They drafted Wanya Morris. They traded up to get Kingsley Suamataia. I mean, it's not like Veach just sat on his ass and did absolutely nothing and said, okay, well, they'll just figure it out. No, he has tried to find anyone and everyone. Sadly, none of them have worked. I just think that at the end of the day, if you're Brett Veach, just look at the veteran free agency class that's available this year at that tackle position and find a proven guy that's done it before. Do what you can to keep Trey Smith, but my God, man, figure out what you can do with Juwan Taylor. If you can come to some sort of an agreement and cut the guy, do it. Because you can't be spending any more time with that guy. Not only has Juwan Taylor still been figuring out how to line up, which isn't that difficult, he's also been a liability in committing penalties on big plays, sometimes even touchdown plays. You can't afford that if you're Kansas City. You got to figure that out. So we'll see what they do there. Okay, guys. I'm going to keep this one short. I'm out of here. Hey, come back at halftime. We will do the halftime first half recap and talk about the second half a little bit. So as soon as the game goes to the half, come join me for the live chat on here. And then after the game, we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast live. I'll just say this now. I mean, I'm sure you guys can tell I'm a little under the weather still. I'm going to try my best to do the podcast today. But if I'm not feeling well, I will probably cut it short. And this is like not a great week for all of this because the Chiefs are in a short week. But shit, man, shit happens. What are you going to do? But hey, I'm going to try to fight through it. If Patrick Mahomes can play through a bad ankle, I can get through this. Can I? That's the goal I'm trying to set for myself. I'm trying to compete against Patrick Mahomes' ankle here. So we'll see. If you guys want to call in, we'll have the video links after the game on the post-game podcast. So make sure you guys click it, turn on your video, your audio, put in your name, and we'll chat it up. If you guys are camera shy, that's okay. We can read your comments after the game as well. Okay, guys, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me this morning. I will talk to you all at halftime. Take care.